Good day, my beautiful people, and welcome back to another video. I'm your host, Steffi, and thank you for being here. This is going to be a different video from what you all are used to, and I'm not going to always make videos like this. There will be here and there, just because I know people are interested, and it is part of my life and my everyday journey. I'm a woman of many interests, and of course, in the past, you've seen videos about my amputation story and things like that, but I don't really want to make my channel about that specifically. I want to show more of my everyday to-day life and show that if I'm able to do certain things, and so can you. In this video, I wanted to actually give more in detail what really happened and why I'm here and why I only have one leg. It's pretty obvious. For some reason, it's the hardest to film, but if you ask me in person, I can summarize it into just a few short sentences. This is a story many have been curious about, and I'm not afraid to or ashamed to talk about. Let's go all the way back. It was the summer of 2003. I was an active 10-year-old, and I was playing outside, climbing trees, playing tag with the kids outside, riding bicycles, skating, very active. Everything that you can think of in those days that was normal to do, play outside. I had a small accident one of those days, riding a bicycle I wasn't supposed to be riding. It was a bicycle that was way too big for me. Come home crying, letting my mom know that I fell off of this bike. Of course, she does what any mom does. She puts ice on it, and she gives me some pain medication, Tylenol, Motrin, one of the two. From there, of course, I just relax for a little bit and then go back outside and play again. And we didn't think anything of it. I was an active 10-year-old again, as I mentioned. I started to limp and have pain in that leg. So my mom decides to schedule an appointment for me to get it checked out, get some x-rays, see what the doctors have to say about it. The appointment is scheduled for October 30th. But while I'm at school on October 21st, I break my leg and I get rushed to the emergency room. From there, they see that there's something going on. The emergency room that we go to is specifically for adults, so they're not able to give me a complete diagnosis. So from there, they decide to send me over to the children's hospital. From the children's hospital, they knew that there was something worse that was going on. They do the x-ray, they do MRIs, so they tell my parents that we have to get a biopsy done. When the biopsy comes back, they inform us that it's osteosarcoma, a cancerous tumor. It's a rare form of bone cancer. And that's when my life changes forever. In November 2003, we start chemotherapy, 9 full and long months of misery. The cancer was far too big to only get treated by chemotherapy. So in this case, we had to also include surgery. And I get presented with 3 options. The first option was rotationplasty, which essentially is where they remove a portion of the leg that was affected. They go ahead and rotate the foot and use the foot as the knee. The second option was limb salvage, which they remove the bone and they either use the bone of a cadaver or a metal prosthesis to act as the bone. And the third option was amputation, the removal of the left leg entirely. Along with my family, we all decided on the limb salvage was the best option at the time. So in surgery, the doctors decided to extend the leg just a little bit longer on the left side, so that way it can, if I grow, it would grow into my right leg, the same length, which worked for a little bit of time. And as the months went by, I believe it was maybe a year goes by, I started walking. I was doing physical therapy and everything, I was walking. But as time went by, my other leg continued growing, and I ended up not being at the same level of each other. So we ended up going back into surgery again. That was when everything went downhill. My body started rejecting the prosthetic that they would put inside. And that was when the series of infections started and continued on for years to come. I don't know exactly how many surgeries I had. It was too many to count. Basically, every single time I would get a surgery for the removal and the cleaning of the prosthetic and the area, the infection would always come back. And those were 3-month processes, 1.5 months of not having anything inside besides a spacer, which is a plastic piece, and antibiotics. And then the next 1.5 months was putting in the new prosthetic and then recovery, of course. And I had to do that process about, I don't know, I want to say 10 times, like five times, but each time is a surgery. So that's why I consider it 10 times. And of course, like I said, that took many years of my teenage years. So each time that they would go into surgery, they would have to remove a little bit more of my bone. So to give you a little bit more of an insight, so basically a normal bone will have the hip ball, a femur, the kneecap and the knee area, and then a femur. So, or I'm sorry, the tibia. The original surgery removed portions of the tibia, the knee, and portions of the femur. Now, when I started to have the issues, they had to remove completely the knee area and a little bit more of my femur. So when I mentioned these infections, each time they would go in for surgery, they would have to go up just a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more, and a little bit more. To the point that the last surgery that they end up doing was the removal of the hip ball. And which, to my advantage, it was okay because I was still, I was able to save the leg and, do everything that I wanted to do in that sense of saving the leg. With all the surgeries that I had to have with no break of recovery, in between, I was left with a weak muscle and basically dead weight of a leg. A few years passed without surgeries and infections, and by this point, I was done dealing with everything, with surgeries, with infections, with hospitals, with doctors, medications. I was just done dealing with everything. So for some time, I had been doing research on amputation and, hearing the pros and cons. I've been hearing, checking out the technology that came out, that's been coming out, and knowing this great success rate that many have had in the sense that you're able to walk again. I decided, okay, I'm ready to pull the trigger and make this decision. So throughout all of my childhood and teenage years, and even into adulthood, I had been dealing with basically always having to go to the hospital, and I was just tired of it. So by this point, I'm an adult, and I decided, what can I lose? I mean, besides the limb, of course. But it was just something that I had to do, and I wanted to finally live life and not have to worry anymore about going to doctors and hospitals and medications and infections and surgeries, and because that's time consuming, and really I wasn't living a life, and I was just living to recover, and that's not a life to live. I wanted to explore, I wanted to see the world, I wanted to do so many things, and unfortunately when you're stuck in the hospital and sick all the time, it just won't work. So that's when, together with my husband, I decided I'm gonna pull the trigger. It was November of 2020 when I got my first surgery of my amputation. They left a lot of the metal prosthesis inside, and it kind of looked like I was a through the knee amputee, but I was considered still an above the knee amputee. It went well. In the beginning, I got the surgery done in November of 2020, and then from there in January, I was healed enough to be able to start getting fitted for a prosthetic. And by, I believe it was February, I had my prosthetic, and I started walking on it, practicing and learning how to use it. And I was never that great, but nonetheless I did get to use it, and I enjoyed using it. There was a period of time where I started to get some pain again. I don't remember exactly when it was, but I started to get another infection. By this point, I stopped using the prosthetic, and I just continued living life, not knowing 100% that it was an infection, but I had an idea just because I've dealt with it so many times. But I just wanted to live life a little bit and enjoy life a little bit because I hadn't had the opportunity to do that before. So when I find out it was, let's say, March 2022. No, it was, yeah, January of 2022, I started to travel the country, the United States. And then in March of 2022, I find out that I'm pregnant. And it was something that we've been wanting my husband and I had been together for about 10 years, and we've never had the opportunity to have a child as of yet. And it was something that we've always wanted, and I've always wanted as a young girl. I've always wanted a little baby. It's a story for another video. And let's stick to this specific video. So when I find out that I'm pregnant in March, I decide to move back to Florida as I was traveling full-time on the road, living on the road for some time. I continued traveling until about June. June is when we finally got back to Florida. We drove all the way back. We took our time, finished off the pregnancy, monitored everything, make sure everything was good. Within the pregnancy, that's a whole nother video as well. I did have to have two more surgeries while I was pregnant. And they had to amputate just a little bit more. So that comes to the reason why today I am not wearing, and I haven't been wearing, a prosthetic. And many people are curious about that. That's another piece of the story. Is, so many things have happened in between the first time that I had my surgery, the first amputation surgery, and then the last two. So really, that's kind of a summary. That's kind of that's the full details of why I'm missing a leg, and why till this day I still haven't gotten a new prosthetic. It's just when you're pregnant and when you're going through different changes, you go up and down in weight, and the way a prosthetic works is it molds specifically to your body. So, and it's not easy to get a prosthetic through insurance, and that often. So if you decide to gain weight or lose weight, or gain muscle or lose muscle, you kind of have to get refitted again, and that's part of going through the insurance process and have the insurance pay for it, because those things are not cheap. Those are some pretty hefty prices just to be able to walk. So within the period of time that I was pregnant, I decided not to wear a prosthetic, and then of course now I have a little one. I just don't feel safe to be wearing the prosthetic and carrying him around and stuff like that. It's a long process, but another detail I did not get into actually while I was pregnant and I had the second surgery. So I had two surgeries. The first surgery was to go in and remove and clean the infection that was in there. And then the second surgery was to remove entirely the metal prosthesis because of that infection. it came back and it was just terrible. But again, that's another story for another time. But yeah, so at this point, I only have the leg there, like the flesh there, but there's no bone. So really, I don't know what it would be like, or if a prosthetist would be even able to create or do a mold that would work for me in this situation. So that's the reason why at this exact moment, I have not had a new prosthetic. There's so much more that I can go into details, but I'm just trying to make this video just to kind of put it out there, because I know so many people have been curious and wanting to know, and I've been meaning to make this video for so long, but it's just for some reason to record the video, it's just kind of hard to get into. But if you ask me in person this question, it would be, I could summarize it for you in just a few sentences. And I don't know, for some reason having the camera, it's a little bit harder to tell the story. But nonetheless, that is the reason why I only have one leg and the reason why I still don't wear a prosthetic to this point. Maybe at some point in the future, or if some company wants to sponsor me and wants to partner with me, I would be more than happy to do that. But at this point, yeah, that's the story. And if you got to this point of the video, I'd appreciate it if you can like the video and leave a comment down below that you've read up into this point. And yeah. I probably won't be making as many of these type of videos. I want to share more of my life that I actually get to live finally, after so many years of hospitalization, medications, doctors, surgeries, prosthetics. I want to live life a little bit and explore and see the beauty of Mother Nature that Mother Nature has to offer. So that's what I would prefer to share. So thank you again for spending a few minutes of your time with me, and I appreciate that. And subscribe to follow along with my future adventures.